Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling blog. Today you join me on the river and we're in search of roach on the bollow and the whip. So the seasons right now are definitely on the change. We're moving slowly out of summer and into autumn. Them mornings have got that crispness to them as you go into work, where you can feel it as you walk out the door. The heating goes on the car and things like that. And with that, the fishing also changes. For me, this time of year screams one thing, and that's roach. And today we're going to try and target roach on the bollow and the whip. And we're going to have a few baits just to target them better quality fish. As you can see from the screen now, we're going to be using Cheshire Particle hemp, Angler's Arc casters, and tears also from Cheshire Particle. Them three baits are renowned for catching roach, and hopefully today I'll put a few on the bank. So we are in a tight swim today, so showing the setup is going to be quite difficult, but I'll do my best. Regular viewers of the channel will know weekly videos go on the channel at 6 o'clock, so the setup doesn't really change. So I'm going with my 17-foot Preston Innovations carbon active rod. I've got that teamed up with a Shimano Techian reel. At the business end of the rod, as you can see on screen now, I've got a 3 gram bollow down to a 2.5 gram Dinsmore Olivet, and I've got quite a long hook link, around about 2 to 3 foot, with number 8 droppers evenly spread down the line. That is the setup that I'll be fishing on the bollow, and when we have a look at the swim, I'll show you the line that I'm going to try and fish that rod on. The venue that we're on today is quite deep under the feet, probably about 8 to 12 foot, I would imagine, somewhere in that region. And what I'll be using on that line is my new Dinsmore 5 metre whip, and that is just to target them fish under my feet. I'm going to be fishing that really on the ground with a bit of ground bait, because I want to get the bait on the bottom, because of course with this you lose the ability to go down the swim, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. But that is what I'm going to try and target the fish on, under my feet. It's a nice light whip. It's certainly lighter than my 5 metre one that I've had since a kid, so at least whip technology has improved. But yeah, that is what I'll be targeting the fish on under my feet. So there's the box that I'm going to be sat on. You can see a bit of ground bait on it. And if we look at the swim, I'm going to be tacking 2 lines today. I'm going to be trying to fish hemp and caster down this line, so I can, you know, target down the swim here, feeding the hemp about here, so it's all downstream, and hoping to get me bites around about here down to there. On the whip, I'm lining up with that tree, but I'm going to be fishing down here. I'm just going to put some ground bait about here, so I can go probably to about there if I reach with my hand. To say, it is quite a deep swim, but with depth the fish will be confident, and there's a wall down here, so there's a good chance of all species. You never know quite what you're going to catch on that one. Not a line that I normally fish, because on here, when you learn swims, and that's the one thing that I always say on the videos, you know, you only learn by going fishing. Videos on YouTube and stuff like that can teach you so much and, you know, help you a little bit, but there's no better substitute for actually getting out there and learning your rivers. And on this river there's a snag, a tree that goes down here. When I cast over there, I go on the outside of it, and we've got my uncle downstream, and the snag goes all the way down. From this swim you can obviously go down the outside of it, and my uncle, what he does, he casts downstream to avoid it. So we're going to be careful today, and if we hit the snag, then the whip line's going to be non-existent. But when you learn your rivers, you can learn how to attack them. So since joining Cordham, there has been a couple of changes on the blog, like I said, and one of the huge ones that I found positive is the ground bait bowl. As I say, many people who watch the blog for years, if you go back and look at the videos, you'll see I used to carry a green census bucket around with me everywhere, and when you're carrying a box across a couple of fields to the river, it's a bit of a pain. So that has really helped lighten the load. And as I say, there's the riddle is EVA as well, it goes on top. So in there, the bait, we've got some ground bait, and as I say, that's mainly for the whip line, but we might put a bit on the other line if it doesn't go to plan. You've seen in a recent video with the barbel, it's always good to have a plan B. You can see the side tray, a few bits and pieces. One thing that this peg does struggle with is light, so you'll have to excuse it today. Bait tray, casters from Angler's Arc, we've got Cheshire Particle hemp, and we've got some tears. So let's make a start. So the plan for the session is I'm going to feed hemp and caster down that bollow line for the first probably half hour to an hour, and fish the whip under my feet. Now, one thing with this time of year is all the fish are in transition. Whenever you get a change of season, fish on rivers and lakes all start moving to the different areas where they live. So just because you may have come on a venue last week and had a good day doesn't mean that it's going to be good the week after. So today I'm just going to start off with the 2 balls of ground bait you can see on screen now, and I'm just going to put them close in like that, close enough so I can run the bollow or the whip over the top of them, and start easy and put more bait in as the session goes on. If there's a lot of fish there, then you can always put more in. And see there, I've got a bite straight away, so it tells me that possibly there's going to be a few fish to be had today, and it's a target species and a roach. But like I say, sometimes it can be dead easy to come a venue and put 10 balls of ground bait in because you had a good session last week. And this time of year, when you're moving into winter, the fish aren't always going to be up for a lot of feed or in the same areas, but that is a good start. Flicking that whip over the top of that ground bait, and I say putting a bit of hemp on that far line, and the hope today is to try and get a few fish on the tears. But I'm just going to feed hemp and caster to begin with, and then move over to a tear later on. I'm not really going to feed that line that much. I'm just going to fish over that ground bait, and so you've got to come close enough in that you can run over that ground bait, because the fish could back off downstream. But that's just going nicely over that ground bait. There's another fish. So there is obviously 1 or 2 down there. I'm fishing maggot on the hook, and obviously picking up perch, which, as I said before, there's a wall underneath my feet, so there isn't a perch out there that doesn't like a bit of structure. But that's a good start, that. Like I said at the start, you know, 3 bites and 3 casts, there's obviously 1 or 2 fish on the feed. The beauty of whip fishing is in the fact of how many fish you can actually catch in a small space of time. You fish the whip to hand, so it comes straight into your hand, every fish, so there's no reeling in. As you can see there, every fish just comes straight to hand. So with the whip, because you can only go so far down the river, your feeding is essential. You've got to make sure that bait is in front of you and not going too far down. If your bait is going to the bottom all the way down there, then it's no good, because obviously you can't go over the top of it. And the way to work out if it's working is by your bites. If you're not getting any bites, then the food's not there. As you can see from that, we're getting the bites right where we put that ground bait and hemp and caster, so it's working. And it's just a case now of keeping them there. So as you can imagine, that hemp is going slowly through the water. You can imagine it hitting bottom. The river isn't really flowing that much at the moment. We can just hold it back, and there's the bite. You begin to get into a routine with it. That's a nice roach, that, on the whip. As you can see how quickly that fish has come to hand. It's how quick you can begin to put a few fish together. And that's a lovely fish coming on the whip. Size of fish that you're after, and ones that you can swing to hand but put a bit of weight in the net. And that's a good solid stamp of fish to start getting. And that's just come on a caster on that whip line. At the moment, with fish like that just coming on the whip, there's no need to go on that bollow line. Generally, the longer you leave it, the better it should be, but there's no point going out there when you can catch the fish at the end of the whip. And although it's a simple method of fishing the whip, it is a rewarding one. I mean, you've got to keep that shoal in front of you, and that is always the challenge. And the actual setup is basic. It's just line tied to the end of a pole and a float and a hook and an olivet. But to keep them fish there is the art of it. And this is a lovely roach just coming on the caster, and just shows if you can keep the bait going in and keep that shoal in touching distance, you can catch some nice fish. And this is the best one of the day so far, and that's a lovely fish. Let's take a look at it. And there we go, there's that roach, a lovely fish on the whip. And as I say, when you're getting them close in, there isn't any reason to really go on the bollow yet. Let's get as many fish as we can on the whip and save that for later. You've got to do on the whip, if you hit a better fish, is just take your time. And say you've not got much line to work with, so if you hit something that pulls back a bit, you have got to play the fish. So you got a bit of depth of water here to do it, so hopefully the fish doesn't go too far. But it's a nice perch, and the swim had just gone quiet for the second. So what I think we'll do after this, we'll get this one out, we'll have a look at him, and we'll have a go on the bollow and just give this swim just a bit of a rest for probably 10-15 minutes, because the fish have just gone a bit scatty a bit further downstream. So we'll keep feeding it and see if they move back up. And look at the colours on that. It's the beautiful thing about river fish, the colours are always vibrant. With red, blood red fins, and it's got almost a tinge of every colour of green about it. It's a lovely fish. Went onto the bollow, and as you can see, there's a bit of a wind come on the venue, and it did make presenting a bait on the bollow quite difficult. You know, controlling the line and mending the line with a downstream wind can be hard. So I spent about 15-20 minutes trying to get a bite on it, but it's just not going through as I want it to. Obviously I'll keep feeding it a little bit in case conditions change, but just going back on the whip, and then fish that you were leaning with the whip to start getting your bites, and I'll back up when I'm putting the hemp and ground bait. So for the last hour the swim has been dead, but the odd perch and the very rare roach on the whip. So the wind's too strong to be fishing the bollow, and then the float buried, and that is why I brought caster today. You'd always seem to pick up the quality fish. Apologies for the lack of action, but on a 5 metre whip, the last thing I had in my mind was picking up a GoPro. It was bent double, but just shows what you can get in on a small whip. Absolutely made up with that. It's exactly £2 on the nose, and the cake hole on it's a boot. I imagine a few roach go down that on a daily basis. With these fish though, sometimes they're not alone, so I wonder if there's another one down there. Let's get him straight back and get back into the swim. So next trot through, the float's buried again. Not as much of a fight off this one, but a smaller perch. And as I've said before, that's what I love about river fishing. 1 minute you're catching roach, and then a shoal of perch, chub, dace can just turn up and change the swim. Let's get him in and take a look. So much more manageable fish, this one, than the other one. The other one was solid, and when I say solid, yeah, it was a tussle. Equally as nice, this fish in colours, and there could be some very special perch in this venue indeed. Let's get him straight back. So the swim really died off at the moment, and I think these guys are to blame. It's another nice perch just coming on the whip. As you can probably tell from the blog, we've jumped a few hours. The session really has ground to a halt, and I've got a feeling there's a few of these guys down there, and they don't call them a bully of perch for nothing. They will bully the other species out, and this one, fins proud, yeah, a beautiful fish, but it has put pay to that roach fishing, and that is fishing at times, isn't it? We make the plan at the start, and sometimes the ending is different, but nonetheless enjoyable. It's a lovely fish, as nice as any roach, and yeah, a lovely fish. It's been a while since one of them graced me palm today. Hopefully with that perch just put in the keep net, this might be the start of the roach moving back in and Mr. Perch moving off. Hopefully that's the case and we have a good end to the session. But yeah, it's been far too long since we had them early roach. That's a lovely fin perfect roach, and what we came for today. And there's another one in quick succession. So we'll add a bit of weight to the final net. It's got a bit of damage to its fin, looks like cormorant damage really. But a lovely fish nonetheless, and more the stamp that we were after on this session. And we'll call that one the last fish of the day. We'll have a look at that final net and see how we've done. Right, so the session comes to an end there now. Apologies about the lighting. We're into the afternoon and there's a lot of trees about and there's not a lot I can do about it. An enjoyable day on the bank, a difficult day, and as I said at the start, autumn into winter or any change of season is always difficult. The fish are on the move, and then other species are on the hunt as well. Pike and perch, they're all sensing that change in temperature and beginning to feed as well. The morning on the whip, them fish were really building, and I was just about to move over to tares when it kind of petered off. The bites just moved that bit further down, and I'm almost certain that was the arrival of the perch in the area. Going on to the bollow was difficult. The wind coming down made life really hard, and then into the afternoon it was sitting and waiting for them perch. A lot of waiting, but when you got one they didn't half pull back. So an enjoyable day on the bank, and one that lets you know that the change in seasons is coming. As you can see on screen now, a thoroughly enjoyable day on the bank, a nice net of fish, lots of quality because we use caster, and an enjoyable day. I hope you've enjoyed the vlog. Leave the video a like if you have, and feel free to subscribe to the channel. Tight lines in your own fishing, and we'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.